Let's learn how to work with Maya's orient constraint. With an orient constraint, we can control an object's rotation with another object's rotation. In our case, hitting play, we'll find that the larger hand is moving but the smaller hand is motionless. By the end of this, we'll have the smaller hand move based off of the rotation of the larger hand. So let's say we get started by moving over to our outliner. Just so we can grab the two hands we're about to constrain together. Going over to our display layers, we'll grab hand 1, right-click and choose Select Objects. Now we can go ahead and frame that in our outliner. Let's do the same thing for hand 2. Again, right-click on the layer, choose Select Objects, and then go ahead and frame it. Okay, great. So again, if we would like the smaller hand to move based off of the rotation of the larger one, it's a matter of grabbing the target object, which is the large hand, control-clicking the small hand, and underneath our animation module, we choose Constrain, Orient Constraint. Let's go to the options, reset our settings, and we'll work with the default settings. So you can see there's a one-to-one connection. The larger hand's value is directly influencing the smaller hand. So to take a look at this, if we were to grab the large hand first, you could see that its rotate Z is right now set to -138 on frame 24. You'll see the same value on the smaller hand. Again, it's a one-to-one connection. However, we'd probably want the smaller hand to move a bit differently from the larger hand. So if we wanted to average the movement of the smaller hand, we would need another target to weight against. To make this more clear, if we were to grab the small hand, scroll down to the orient constraint node that has been added, you can see at the very bottom of the node we'll find our weight field. So right now it's set to 1, meaning 100%, and here is the target object. But if we were to set this to a value of 0.5, notice there's going to be no change in that object's movement at all because there's no other target weighting against the smaller hand. So in order to do that, it's just a matter of grabbing another object, let's say one that's not in motion. I'll grab the shell of our watch. And now we can control-click hand 2 and go ahead and choose Orient Constraint to add another weight. So what you'll see now as we hit play is that the smaller hand is now affected by two targets, the large hand that's in motion and the shell of the watch that has no animation. So we're getting this blending between the two. Precisely, this is an averaging result. We can take a look at our interpolation types on this rotation constraint to determine how the constraint will behave. So if we did want more rotation, we could always set this to, let's say, longest distance. What this is going to do is look at the longest distance between our target objects. Now if we hit play, you'll see that we're going to get a little bit more rotation, but it's a bit snappy. So to prevent this type of flipping, Maya recommends that we switch between the shortest distance, so looks at the shortest distance between the two targets, and the longest distance. It might require a little bit of work and some animation to switch back and forth between these settings, but they do a great job at helping us to prevent these type of flipping issues. But just choosing one may not be what you'd want, of course, as we have just seen, so you'd probably want to switch between these different settings to get exactly what you need. We also have no flip, which also again helps us to prevent any flipping that may occur. This does a pretty good job, and this actually caches out our constraint And then we also have a cache setting, which again, it kind of does the same thing as no flip. It caches out our constraint. It's just another way of preventing flipping. So you can see each has its own unique behavior. I would also like to say that we only run into flipping on the orange constraint under extreme circumstances where rotation passes a value of 180 degrees. So that's definitely the case for our large hand. So with that said, as long as whatever you have constrained isn't going past that range, you should be safe to use average. I like to use average for a majority of the time when working with orient constraints. But if the twisting or flipping that I experience is very severe, then I may consider switching the interpolation type. Then we also have these offset parameters to get more control over the rotation of the constrained object, what's been locked down. But that's a look at the orient constraint. Again, this is what we would use to control an object's rotation. And remember, we have these weight parameters we can use to turn on and off the effect that the target object has over its constraint.